led the Whitbread fleet out of the Solent. Now an emphatic win in leg one of the 1997 Whitbread Round the World race for the Volvo Trophy. Paul Kayard.
Middle there. Forward there.
Yeah, I've got to come down, guys. Dial it up, dial it up, dial it up.
Go for it, all the way now.
Good evening and welcome to the Whitbread Round the World race for the Volvo Trophy. It's been a week of fast racing and onshore celebrations as the first boats in the Whitbread fleet arrived in Cape Town, South Africa. First into port, EF Language, skippered by the American Paul Kayard. Victory in this first leg by some 160 miles, a fantastic achievement after a month of really tough sailing. The fleet left Southampton on September the 21st, passing the west coast of Europe and North Africa, across the Atlantic, through the doldrums, to the east coast of Brazil, where EF Language took the lead, before turning back east through the South Atlantic toward the end of the first leg. Well, with all compass needles pointing to Cape Town, Richard Simmons headed south.
I'm standing here at the lower slopes of Table Mountain. Behind me, the spectacular setting of Cape Town. It's impressive by any standards, but if you've just spent around about a month on a Whitbread 60, you're tired, you're hungry, landing here is going to be like nothing on earth. But before we take a look at the new arrivals, let's look back at last week's action. There's been plenty of it. Vanilla George takes up the story.
When we left the race last week, EF Language were out in front. Paul Kayard was powering south and pulling away from the twin threat of Merit Cup and Innovation Caverna. EF's decision to turn south after the island of Trindade in the hope of picking up stronger breeze was paying off. It was to become a critical manoeuvre. Mark Rudiger, the boat's navigator, rolled his weather dice to perfection as his alternative route produced more wind. The opposition could only look on as EF easily held on to her lead. The race wasn't over though. On board Merit Cup, there was intense activity as they concentrated on fighting it out with former leader Innovation Caverna in a battle for second place. But on the boat up front, spirits were high as the latest sked arrived and confirmed EF's position to that of their competitors.
All right, guys, hot off the press here, daily news. It's been a good skid for the good yacht EF Language. Good job. Brunel Synergy, 581 miles with a new rudder coming on hard.
While EF were clearly enjoying the results of another successful period of sailing, Brunel Synergy were desperately trying to reel in EF Education at the back of the fleet, without success.
The girls lost 65 miles. I guess they're back in that light spot, the doldrums that we were dealing with a couple days ago. 506 miles back.
500 miles back maybe, but the women's EF boat were enjoying their sailing. They'd kept water between themselves and Brunel Synergy, and were even looking to overtake Swedish Match in 8th. And like the rest of the fleet, they were sailing into big weather.
Last night was a bit wild, and I managed to get top speed of 28.8, and it was pitch black. It was only about 8 o'clock last night. All you could see was the white water. And you just hang on and you just think, shit, I hope I come out of this all right. And we did. And afterwards, my heart was just going, I was shaking. It was pretty big adrenaline rush.
Swedish Match, 336 miles back. The gain of 30 miles for the EF Language on the Swedish Match.
A week ago, Swedish Match were playing hide and seek with Toshiba and America's Challenge. Not anymore. They'd been hit hard by the fluctuating weather systems and found themselves in more holes than most. Up ahead of them was the American trio of Chessie Racing, Toshiba and America's Challenge. With less than a week's sailing left, any one of them could be flying the first Stars and Stripes into Cape Town. One step further on was Laurie Smith. Smith hadn't been able to close on the leaders, but he had dropped the attentions of Chessie Racing. With only a hint of what the British boat is capable of, On day 28, he sailed more miles in a 24-hour span than anyone else had at any other time in the leg. Meanwhile, back at the top of the fleet, Merritt Cup's position had changed and a downsizing of ambitions was going on.
Well, Cape Town's about 1,300 miles directly in front of us now. Caverna's just out here around 13 miles away, and EF's about 100 miles ahead of us. It'll take really a missile now to probably stop them getting in first. They got away from us about 3 to 4 days ago when it blew very, very hard. They were further in the south. They probably had slightly freer breeze and a little more. But more importantly, to be very fair to them, they sailed very, very well. They sailed the boat hard. They've got some gear on board there that we don't have on here. I think we know what it is. And, you know, full credit to them, they've done a very, very good job. Our job now, really, unless something else intervenes, is to try and contain Caverna.
Try as they might, they couldn't stop Caverna swinging in front of them, as Frostad looked to make up for last week's losses. It was a fascinating battle with absolutely nothing between the boats. The scrap for second place, which had been incredibly tight for over a week, just got tighter. If the boats couldn't take first, they wanted the next best thing, and each was fighting by the inch to make second place their own. By now, the weather was really closing in, and the Cape Town run-in was taking its toll on human as well as boat machinery.
Come in! Fire hose was unbelievable. I haven't been on a boat in a long time, and I've never seen that much water coming at me so hard. At one point, I was just doing the water block for the guys trimming and the drivers so they wouldn't get hit. That was the best sailing I've ever done.
The conditions hit everyone, but typically it was Grant Dalton who turned adversity to his advantage and overhauled Caverna to go back into second place.
250 miles to Cape Town. EF is gone. They'll be finished in probably 12 hours. Caverna's just behind us there, about 3 miles. The Demolition Derby just has slowed down for a while, and just for the last 6 hours we actually haven't broken anything. I've got with me a jib halyard clip, 10,000 kilo braking load, sheared right off right there. Cost us a lot of time, spinnaker in the water. Up here I've got a backstay clip, 10,000 kilo Talaska clip, sheared off right there, damn near cost us our mast. It's been a frenetic pace the last few days. We've just managed to hold on to Caverna. I don't know how, because we've broken everything, but we'll certainly get it fixed and be ready to go into leg 2.
At this stage, no one had given up on leg 1, although at the front of the fleet, EF Language was sailing into the sun with over a 100-mile advantage and a first leg win tucked in their pocket. So, all over bar the shouting for EF Language, but 170 miles behind, Innovation Caverna and Merritt Cup are shoulder to shoulder in the run-in. Laurie Smith is a clear 4th with Chessie Racing 5th. Now, if the positions stay like this, these will be the points on offer to the boats. EF Language take 125 for victory, with Merritt Cup 110 and a sliding scale from then on. Further down, thoughts won't be of Cape Town just yet. These guys still have a lot of sailing to do, but if they arrive in their current positions, these are the points they can expect in return. This is a new system, with boats taking points earned from leg 1 to the start line of leg 2, where once again, everyone begins on the same part of the grid.
So EF Language leaving the others to battle it out while they enjoyed the run-in with thoughts of 3 weeks of rest and relaxation in Cape Town. Richard Simmons took a closer look at what this, the Whitbread's first port of call, has to offer.
Known as the Tavern of the Seas, Cape Town nestles in the shadow of Table Mountain, one of South Africa's most distinctive landmarks. After a 12-year absence, the race returns to this spectacular city and to a country passionate about sport. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be with the crews as they combine preparations for leg 2 in the Southern Ocean with visits to local landmarks and the townships and simply enjoying the sunshine. Well, anything but typical Cape Town weather today. It's cloudy, it's much cooler, and behind me, Table Mountain shrouded in mist. For Paul Cahard and his crew on Team AF Language, that doesn't matter. For them, getting here first is what counts.
Get it up right after we go around and just hold it there. Leave it back. Don't pull the guy on or something.
Leading as they left the Solent, Paul Cahard and his crew steamed into Cape Town after over 7,200 miles, with the second boat around 150 miles behind. Over the past few days, they'd revelled in big wins and recorded their highest speeds on this leg. Yet, within striking distance of the finish, the wind stopped, leaving them parked up for the night. By first light, they were moving again, determined to press home the advantage that navigator Mark Rudiger's southward dipping course had provided on leaving the island of Trindade. Crossing the finishing line so far ahead of their rivals, Coward's men might have regretted being prevented from carrying forward their elapsed time advantage by the new Formula One style point system. But no matter, theirs was an emphatic leg one victory by any yardstick. Damp and unappealing, the weather didn't put off the race followers, including families and friends who'd assembled from all over the world to celebrate the boat's achievement.
Can you pick out your dad? No. Parker, can you see your dad?
They finished 29 days, 16 hours, 54 minutes and 26 seconds after leaving Southampton. EF Language reached their berth in Cape Town a little older, but a lot wiser. And so Paul Coward and his crew became the Leg 1 winners of the Volvo Trophy. They may have been short on Whitbread experience, but they had in Paul Coward a skipper exuding self-confidence and conviction, with a crew prepared to back his judgment. They also had Mark Rudiger, navigating in the Whitbread for the first time and willing to take risks. Mark Rudiger, navigator on board, you came on fairly late. Didn't prove much of a disadvantage.
No, you know, it's true. You can kind of overanalyze things sometimes, and you know, you research a particular race so much that you get kind of mindset going, you know, and not having a lot of experience, never having done this leg before, didn't know I was going to be doing it, so I didn't research it a lot. I just looked at what we had, where I would go, and weather conditions like that, and you know, that proved to be, I think, one of our strengths actually. And these guys had the guts and the commitment to, you know, back me up, and so you know, it's good when that happens like that.
All right. Since joining the EF Language boat as replacement for Laurie Smith, poached by Silk Cut, Coward's commitment to the project has been total. And that's been a source of special satisfaction to those associated with it from the very beginning.
1.5 years ago, I called Paul Coward and asked him if he was interested in Whitbread while we were negotiating with Laurie Smith, because I thought if something would go wrong, it's good to have a backup. And I don't know, something happened and Paul got involved, and I mean, the result tells for itself, I guess.
Later, Coward explained how he and Rudiger had made the decisive move that confirmed victory.
Basically, at times we're sailing more than 90 degrees off the course. And so if you have a 10-mile lead, and you could be, early on there, we could have been either on port jibe going closer to the mark or starboard jibe southing. And when you south, you lose, even if you do the same 80 miles on the sked, you're going to lose to the other guy because he's going east, he's easting. And you know, the course is 135, so he's closer to the course, he gains miles on you. In actual distance sailed, we were sailing as much or more than those guys on every sked, but you guys wouldn't really know that unless you were plotting it out like we were. And then all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 days of huge runs, and everybody thinks, geez, something just happened to them, that they're off. But it was the investment you did 2 or 3 days before.
Better still for Coward and his crew is that the bumpy ride they endured last week has introduced them to the demands of sailing in the Southern Ocean.
I think we know the boat quite a bit. We were fortunate enough to experience some pretty tough conditions for a while. I'm not sure the whole rest of the fleet got to see it. And it's a lot of what we're going to be doing on the second leg. We learned a lot there. We learned about what our physical limits are, what the dangers and risks are. We found out some things about our boat, and it was nice to have all that happen on this leg, only for a 36-hour period. So all in all, I'm really proud to be the spokesperson for this team, pushed the boat hard, kept ourselves in contention. When the opportunity came, we jumped on it, and that was pretty much the race.
A very contented Paul Cayard, looking forward to some well-deserved time off the boat. Now with me is our resident tactician Vincent Geek, who's been following all the moves in this opening leg. Paul Cayard talking there about taking his chances, and it was as simple as that, wasn't it?
It was, but it was a very positive, determined bit of sailing. Second night out, coming into Ushant, he positioned himself correctly, made sure that he was in the lead bunch of boats all the way down the Atlantic, through the doldrums. He kept in touch with the leading three. It was when they came into the second island, Trinidad, he was half a mile ahead of Merritt, but that's where he took his chance. They could see better breeze to the south. They went very aggressively, cut south into that breeze. The other guys really missed a trick there. Cayard got into the new wind, locked onto that low pressure system, rode across the Atlantic and basically drove the boat so hard that he pulled out a very big lead on the guys behind.
That move that put them into the lead around Trinidad, not just luck, the navigator Mark Rudiger deserves an enormous amount of credit for that.
That's right. It was a good example of a navigator and skipper working well, because although Mark hasn't done this race before, he's done a lot of races in the North Pacific around high pressure systems trying to find the best route. He said to Cayard that there is more breeze down there, the other guys aren't prepared to go for it, but we should. Paul had the faith to trust him. They went down there, got into it, and really made it pay.
The kind of sailing that they would have experienced in the last few days of the leg, from the point where they took the lead, that must have been a whole new experience for them.
Oh, I think so, yes. And I think it's very new sailing for everybody, because these boats are so much more powerful than they were even 4 years ago, that I think everyone's been amazed at the speeds they've been able to get without even flying the spinnakers. With kind of smaller sails on, the boats are so powerful, they've been half underwater and, as Cayard says, hosing along.
Should we now install EF Language as firm favourites? How do you think that they're going to cope with the next couple of legs to come?
I think what will be interesting to see yet, because we really don't know how fast the boats are, that although you have kind of 9 different sailing races, it's like a Grand Prix. Some legs will favour boats of one type, maybe boats with a lot of horsepower, other will favour boats with maybe better handling. The next leg's very different from this leg. We know Grant Dalton has said that Merritt Cup is heavily optimised for the downwind Southern Ocean conditions we expect on the next leg. Laurie Smith Crew is optimised for that leg as well. Those two guys we should see out in front. But Cayard's, there's no reason not to see him in there either.
Vincent, for the moment, thanks very much indeed. So EF Language deserved winners of this first leg, but the battle for second and third, far less clear-cut, and Richard Simmons can now take up the story.
Behind the leg one winner EF Language, there was a real scrap for second place, with long-time leader Innovation Caverna, skippered by Knut Frostad, now trailing Merritt Cup by a slender 6 miles. Merritt had stolen the initiative over the weekend, following Caverna's ill-judged move northwards to avoid a weather front. Skipper Dalton was feeling the effects of the recent high winds, which decimated his sail inventory and shattered deck fittings. Constant running repairs were required to keep the power on. Grant Dalton had always said that a top 3 finish in every leg would be required to win the Whitbread. But right now he was locked in a 250-mile boat-for-boat battle with his Norwegian opponent and fighting to secure that vital second place. Caverna, meanwhile, were paying for their change of course, and as the winds became lighter, the frustration was only too visible. For so long, the front-runners of the fleet, now they were battling for crucial points in a leg they could and perhaps should have won. But with Cape Town under a day away, nobody was conceding defeat.
It's having an incredible race with Merritt Cup, who at the moment are about 4 miles over there on the beam. The boys are working really hard. We're running extra people on deck and not getting much sleep at night in an effort to hang on to Merritt. We know that they'll be doing the same.
By day 31, Merritt had extended its lead over Caverna. Never one to count his chickens, even the cautious Grant Dalton was beginning to cluck.
So we're really on our second last skid before the finish. EF's already finished, and this was a really important one because of the relative positioning between us and Caverna. We're 21 miles ahead of them, so we've had a good skid, which obviously always changes the mood on board. And that's going to make it quite hard for them now, basically they have to sort of almost go through us to get to Cape Town. And, that's all good news.
Good news for Dalton. After 7,000 miles of near match racing, the gap between Merritt Cup and Innovation Caverna was a mere 5 miles. This time, it was Merritt Cup's turn to suffer a loss of breeze and some last-minute anxiety. Well, it's 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Behind me, Merritt Cup, tantalisingly close to the finish at Cape Town. You can see it just about 4 miles away. Now, a little over an hour ago, Merritt Cup was pouring down at over 13 knots, then suddenly the wind died. Ironically, it's Table Mountain, Cape Town's most famous landmark, that's sheltering, but there's a twist in the tale. Behind Merritt Cup, Innovation Caverna is in that wind. We don't know where it is. We do know they're going quickly. And remember, this has been an extraordinary leg. Nothing has happened as predicted. The boats passed the Canaries where there's meant to be big wind and there wasn't. They went through the doldrums where they were meant to stop and they carried on going. And now, the grand finale, they're coming into Cape Town where the breeze is meant to be regular as clockwork and it's completely died. Following behind, Caverna also hit the still air and any hopes of hauling in Merritt finally disappeared. Time on Wednesday morning, Merritt Cup crawled over the Cape Town finish line. Leg one was finally over, and at last the celebrations could begin. Well done. The Whitbread newcomer Kayard had beaten him, but Grant Dalton, on his 5th Whitbread assault, had sent a powerful message to his rival. Grant Dalton, Merritt Cup. One pre-race favourite at least was on 4, but Grant Dalton was not becoming blasé.
Generally, I think we finished as well as we could have, and we're probably maybe even lucky to be second. I think that Innovation, they kind of let us off the hook in the last 24 hours a bit. So yeah, we're pretty happy to be second, and it's something to build from. If you're first, you're kind of wondering what you're going to do to get faster, probably. But we know we can go a shitload faster, and have to go a lot faster. But I think the reflection of where you finished compared to say where Sid Dixon is, for example, they're not reflections of boat speed; they're reflections of navigation. And the navigation, it was a cruel navigation leg for punished mistakes.
Dawn broke just 2 hours behind. Innovation Caverna's Viking assault claimed 3rd place. But skipper Knut Frostad was left to reflect on what might have been.
The first 3 weeks were very good. We sort of did exactly what we planned to do and wanted to do. We had good speed all the time, and it seemed like other boats sort of made mistakes, so they gave us a bit of playroom, and that was really good. Then we had between the 2 islands where we got caught up. We just sailed into light airs, and it was frustrating. We couldn't do much because there was a waypoint and we were pointing straight at the mark. At the time when they passed us, we were just in a wall with squalls. And EF managed to sail around us, and Merritt closed us, and we all came together to the last island. We could all see each other very easily, and then it was just first boat to dive south that would definitely win the race, and EF did, and we didn't.
So a neck-and-neck battle for 2nd and 3rd over the last week of the first leg. Merritt Cup, Grant Dalton coming out the stronger. And Vincent, Innovation Caverna, for so long leaders in this first leg, might be a little disappointed with 3rd.
I think there will be. This should have been their leg in many ways. It was a meteorology leg. It's an area they've really majored in. For a long time it all worked, and then at the end they missed that one trick. KL got away. And they'll be sad. I mean, they've still got a good position, but there are 25 more points they could have had.
But Merritt Cup in 2nd place and looking ominously strong.
Very experienced bunch of people. They've done a lot of testing out in heavy weathers, yet still they came in with no spinnaker halyards left. I mean, Grant's saying there's a lot of work to do on the boat, but they've got a good bunch of guys. They'll know what to do, how to fix it. I think they're going to become stronger and stronger as the race goes through.
But now with the point system, it's still everything to fight for, isn't it?
That's right. I think the point system really has worked well here. Due to weather conditions, the fleet's been stretched out artificially. If the guys at the back 4, 5, 6 days behind, they'd never get that kind of distance up. In '89, when at the end of the first leg, the second boat came in only about 12 or 13 hours behind, and Pierre Feldman, the skipper, said, "That's it, as far as I'm concerned, I can't get back into it." We've now got Laurie Smith 2 days back, Toshiba 4 days back. They're still very much in the race.
4th place, the British entry, and Laurie Smith. We'll have more on them in just a moment. But further back down the fleet, we've got the likes of Toshiba, Swedish Match. Heavy investment made in those syndicates and high expectations. And now much soul-searching, I'm sure, to be done in Cape Town.
Both very high-budget campaigns. We expect a lot from them. and we don't really know what's gone wrong. They're going to have to. There's going to be pressure, obviously, from sponsors. They've sponsored an entry. They want to see their entry up there winning. They're going to be pushing to get something identified as what went wrong. We may see some political sackings, which would be unfortunate. But the other thing, which is more of a problem, I think, for them, is they've got some first-class crew on the boat. Those guys could probably have walked onto any boat in the fleet, and they chose to commit to these 2 boats. The skippers have got to make sure that they don't walk off there, so they've got 2 problems, guarding their own job and trying to keep their crew.
So mutiny as well, maybe.
Yes.
Vincent, thanks very much indeed. We'll see the rest of the fleet come in over the next few days. Particular interest, of course, in the arrival of the British entry. Short time ago, Laurie Smith in 4th place on board Silk Cut, and Richard Simmons was in Cape Town to see them arrive.
Thursday morning here in Cape Town, a little after 5 a.m. Behind me, Laurie Smith and the British crew about to finish in 4th position. They won't be that happy with 4th, but they have beaten race favourites Toshiba. They've also achieved the fastest 24 hours in the race, 412.7 miles. They did that last Saturday. So they go quick when it blows, and that stands them in good stead for the very windy Southern Ocean leg. It's been a painfully slow and frustrating month of sailing for the crew of the British boat. Skipper Laurie Smith has been finding himself on the wrong end of every weather system almost since the first day.
Yeah.
Arriving this morning, though, he managed to keep a brave face.
We're not at all unhappy with the way things are going. Obviously, 4th isn't as good as the top 3, but it's not too bad. You know, you can win the race counting a 4th, and I'm quite sure that those 3 boats that beat us won't finish in the first 3 in every race. So that's good. There were some good boats behind us, which I'm sure will be in front of us in other legs. And the most important thing is, you know, the boat's performance we're pretty happy with.
When it blew, Smith took off. In the last race, he set the record for the longest 24-hour run. Last week, he established a benchmark for this race, 412.7 miles. For the crew, it was welcome news, with the Southern Ocean legs lying ahead.
We've always been worried about our heavy weather speed. Light air speed has never been a problem. We've always been quick. And to put in the fastest run in heavy weather, you know, just gave everybody a little bit of a pickup. That maybe we'll be all right on that too.
And the crew is a tight unit. They're respected, particularly when it's blowing hard, when they have no fear. 4th in round 1 with 8 still to race. Britain, well placed to go forward.
Me, Laurie's still the danger man. Certainly in a power environment, Laurie's the danger man.
This morning, Britain's skipper had other things on his mind. Today, his daughter Amber is 4. For the Smith family in Cape Town, time for a brief shift in priorities. The British boat, the latest to arrive then in a time of 31 days, 14 hours and 17 minutes. They join Caverna, Merrick Cup and EF Language in port, while the other 6 crews are still looking to finish and claim points further down the fleet. No doubt, though, that this week at least belongs to Paul Cayard and the crew of EF Language.
So as we leave you this evening, some of the crews have their feet up in Cape Town. Others are still racing to get there. We'll have the rest of the arrivals next week, when we'll be following the crews around Cape Town as they part relax and part prepare for leg 2. So join us again, same time next week, 7 o'clock BBC 2, for more from the Whitbread Round the World race.